sure the pedals.
Yeah, that's what I want you to. I'm not going to do it. I have to take it out of the chunk. Yeah.
If they're gonna fire on the Jefferson side.
No,
Well, that's not pretty nice. The receiver wasn't that far. The receiver's better.
well, that's it's right there.
One adjust the pedals frame. Another one with the pedals frame and a hat and a no-trip pusher. it at the now, so you don't have to do it later.
Okay. I'll hold your seat.
What?
I'll hold your seat.
Good morning, everybody. Would you please stand?
Good morning. I want to thank you for joining us today to come out and celebrate. While grieving is definitely a process that we must walk during this journey, today we want to celebrate the legacy, the dreams, the passion for life that John exhibited daily, the love for his family, his friends, and those around him. It's important as we walk this journey that we realize that he has handed us the baton of life. His dreams have never died. The passion that he had for life, that every time I sit with him, he exhibited so strongly. Those still live on. They still are very much alive. The body has passed, but the dreams and the passion that he had for life and his friends and family still live today. And it's important that we accept that baton and run this race with patience and carry forth his legacy. At this time, we're going to have the eulogy and a poem by Kenny.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this service here today on behalf of Leslie and the Vigil family and the Sanchez family. John Flores. He was drafted in the United States Army on April 27, 1967. He enlisted as a rank of an E1, and he was discharged as an E4 corporal. He was deployed to Vietnam on August of 1967. John's job title was a tunnel rat. John has 3 Purple Hearts with 1 oak leaf cluster, Combat Infantryman's Badge, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with 1 Silver Service Star, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal with Device 1960, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross with Palm Unit, Citation Badge, Overseas Service Bar. He was a marksman with the M14 rifle. He was an expert with an M16 rifle and an expert with a machine gun. John was also a POW, prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. John was given an honorable discharge on December 6th of 1968. I was asked to read this poem that John wrote on August 4th of 2007. For he loved to write poems, and this is one of them. I think you should know why he couldn't adjust. Adjust to what? To a dream that would go bust. They said, what's up is down. They say, what isn't is. They pumped ideas into the head he thought were his. He was on the baseball team. He wanted to work the farmland. When he was 10 years old, wished he had a lemonade stand. He went to church on Sunday. He was a Boy Scout. But his so-called friends would turn his pockets inside out. They said, listen, boy, you're just a pup. They sent him to Vietnam to shape up. They gave him dope to smoke drinks and pills, a gun to carry, and the blood to spill. They said, "Congratulations, you have what it takes." They sent him back into the rat race without any breaks. He thought the American dream, it put him in debt. The only game he could play was Russian roulette. He drank Coca-Cola. He was eating Wonder Bread. Ate of the street containers so he could be fed. What he saw in the streets wasn't always very cool. He saw loneliness and homeliness as the jungle's rule. He could have been an accountant, could have owned a car. He got into drugs and drinking and ended up behind bars. He walks the floor and sometimes weeps and moans, and knows he must sleep in a home he doesn't own. Everybody's asking why he couldn't adjust. All he ever wanted was somebody that he could trust. They took his head and turned it inside out. He never did know what it was all about. He tried to get a steady job, but was always fired. It was never his plan to walk this wire. They took this clean-cut kid and made a killer out of him. If he hadn't met his wife and parents, his survival would be thin. John Michael Flores, 72, Pueblo, passed away on May 4th, 2022. He was preceded in death by his father-in-law, Levi A. Sanchez, half-brother Benny Garcia. He is survived by his wife of 27 years, Leslie Flores, mother-in-law, Naomi V. Sanchez, brother-in-law, Len Sanchez, nephews, Dale and Timothy Sanchez, numerous nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles, and cousins, extended family and friends. John was an avid fan of the Denver Broncos, and he loved watching the games as well as an avid collector of antiques and art frames. He enjoyed reading and writing poems. He will be deeply missed by all who knew and loved him. It's a great honor for me to be here and speak of John's behalf. For he was a highly decorated Vietnam vet whose job title would give me nightmares to think about. At this time, I would like to ask all of the veterans who are here today, please stand up so you can be recognized. Thank you both for your service. May God bless our family. May God bless John Flores, and may God bless America. Thank you.
I think that's so important in this day and age that we honor, pay tribute to our veterans that serve our country or have served our country. I think that's very, very important. I applaud that without a doubt. At this time, we're going to have a poem by Bill.
Looking for my glasses. This is a poem that John wrote to Leslie, and it's a real sweet poem. My crown jewel of a woman, I have a contract with the Lord, way up in the land of the unknown. I will see you as my great friend and reward. Lazy, shining like a little morning star. I think the lazy part is not, she's a hard worker. I know I can trust to stay where you are. I just need to tell you that I will stay closer to you than any friend. I have to thank you once again for making your prayers known unto heaven for me. To you, always so grateful, I will never forget. I have been broken, shattered like a little empty cup, and now I'm just waiting for the Lord to rebuild and fill my cup back up. I know He will do it because He is faithful and He is true. He must love me so much and send me someone that finds as He used. By His truth, I can be upright. By His strength, I have the ability to endure. By His power, I have been lifted and is loved, and I'm secure. He brought me with a price, fed me, and had pity on me that was filled with emptiness rather than the fire that I burned inside of me. I have been saved by the blood and Lamb. Nobody to rescue me. Nobody to dare, with the exception of my family, and by the mercy and faith. And then I was spared by the faith in you and all of your help, and you were there for the call so long. I've been hindered for so long, and I've been stalled. I have saved their prayers and have faith in me. John, I'm going to add some things to this. It's a beautiful poem. John and I learned each other. We were born at St. Joseph's Hospital in Denver, and our parents gave us up. And we ended up at St. Vincent's. I lived with him from 2 years old to 13. Then we moved to Mullen High School. The way the nuns did this, they took care of us, baby, junior, and senior. And then once we got to 12 years old, we were either moved to St. Vincent's to Mullen, or we went from Mullen, or from St. Vincent's to Boys Town in Nebraska, or to stay home, depending on where they placed us. John was an outstanding kid. We loved and played together. We didn't really realize that we didn't have family, but we had 80 orphans that lived together and played together. We worshiped together. We went to school together. And the nuns, the Sisters of Charity, really took care of us. They were our moms. When we went to Mullen, we ended up with Christian brothers taking care of us. And from there, I ended up getting a draft notice and decided to go in the Army. And rather than take a 2-year, I was able to pick my military occupation, and I went into communications. I didn't see John until 6 years later, because when I came back from Vietnam, he went in to the military. So 6 years passed. And then when he did get back, I hooked up with him and saw him when he was working at his jobs. And the greatest thing and the happiest part of meeting him was when he found Leslie, and they were living in Commerce City in a mobile home, And I realized something, that he needed something. And the Veterans Administration was what he needed. He got a full disability. They took care of his housing. We moved him from Commerce City to out here in West Pueblo. And when we got him into that home, he was just so happy. And Leslie was thrilled when we pulled into that house with that big truck. They got out of that truck and went into that house and just were beaming. It was so thrilled. And I think all of this time that I've been going back and forth, Tom and I had property in Pie Town, New Mexico. And whenever we came through here, we'd stop by and stay with them and visit them. And it was a lovely time. I love the backyards. I love the house, the way it was laid out. And when John had a problem, didn't know what to do with something in the house, he and Leslie would call me, and we would try and come up with a solution to it. So she's my sister, as far as I'm concerned, and John was my brother. And I just have to say, it's a prayer that he is there. I'd like to add a little poem, and it's one that I think of. Please don't weep at my grave. I'm not here. I am the beautiful flowers that come out in the spring. I am the trees that grow. I am the birds that fly. I am the stars in the sky. Please don't stand at my grave and weep. With that.
This time we'll have a poem by Roy.
This poem John wrote for his grandma. Which was Leslie's grandma and my mother. Goes like this. Dear Grandma, since you walked into my life, the circle has been complete. I've said goodbye to haunted times and faces in the street. Like Leslie and her parents, you made my life a richer life to live, even when I was deep in poverty. Somehow they taught me how to give. It's never been my duty to remake the world at large, nor it's not my intention to sound the battle charge. Your family loves you so much with a love that doesn't bend, and in eternity would love you at that place again. I know somehow people act like they want to be the boss. They can't relate to the Lord's kingdom. They can't relate to the cross. They self-inflict punishment on their own broken lives. Somehow you've changed my mind and have taught me how to see that just by being next to you is a natural thing for me. Grandma, it isn't about the journey that I see. It's about the destination that you have taken me. Look, John, I want to say a couple things on the kingdom of God that John mentioned here. The book of Romans teaches us how to obtain this salvation. I can't remember the exact verse, but there's a verse that says, unless a person is born again, you will not see the kingdom of God. So what does it mean to be born again? Born again means to dedicate your life to Christ, to repent of your sins, Romans 11:6 says, we are saved by the grace of God and not by works. What does this mean? That first and foremost, that we are saved by God's grace, by the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross to redeem us of our sinful nature. And that's how we get saved. That's how we obtain this salvation. That's how we are born again. After that, we have to repent. We repent and we do our best to serve God. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, we're saved by the grace of God. It's not by the works that we do, so that no man should boast. So people, I just want to tell you, implore you to seek Christ, because this life that we're living is just temporary. We're just here for a minute, and like John, we'll all have our day. But what exists after that is the afterlife, God's kingdom. So when we die, we're going to go to one or two places. And that place is yours. It's either going to be heaven or hell. And I just can't stress enough for you guys to seek God and make the right choice. God bless you guys.
Words of wisdom, guidance, instruction, counsel. I met John as his hospice chaplain, and when I walked in, it was unique, different, but we seemed to immediately make connection. We seemed to just instantly connect and was able to communicate, was able to relate. I would go to his house and he would be very agitated at points about different things. And he would listen to me. He would allow me to talk to him. And I stand here today an honor that I was chosen by John and Leslie to conduct this service, because we developed, as a chaplain, they tell us, you don't make friends. You're there as a clinician, you're there to do your job. And I always tell them, you can't do this job and not develop friendship, rapport, to be able to communicate with people. Not everybody that walked in the door could communicate with John. He would get irritated with him and frustrated with him. But him and I really seemed to hit it off. I remember walking out of the house one day, Leslie, and I stopped at my car and I thought, is it a good thing that I relate so well to him, or because we hit it off so good? It was incredible. It was incredible. Some of the clinicians would call me and they would say, Chaplain, what do you do? How do you get it across to John so easily? I said, I just go in and be me. And I said, we had such a good connection that I was blessed. I was really blessed and honored that they placed him on my patient list because we had a great time, good conversation, and I always enjoyed our visits with him. Always made my visit with John the last visit of my day, because I knew that visit could be anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour and 45 minutes. And I was never wanted to rush him because I wanted him to feel he had my undivided attention. And he did for that time I was there. At this time, we're going to open the mic up. I have listened to poem after poem, and I have heard so many things. The decorated life of John, what he was, how he overcame so many obstacles in life to achieve the points that he achieved in life, says so much. And I know that you're here today and he's had an impact on your life. I ask you to pick out one thing that stood out in your life that he done for you or about you or for you that altered the course of the direction of your life, and share it with us. Now, with all the accolades and decorated points of his life, I understand that could go on forever. But for the sake of time, I ask you to just pick out one and let us share it with you. If there's anybody here today that has something you would like to share with us. You know, I was a strong believer that silence is the loudest noise there is. Was you going to come on up?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I just want to share this because I thought it was funny in a way, but it is true. The first time John came over to our house for dinner, I made some menudo, and he got the hot red pepper and poured it on, and I said, oh my gosh. And the first bite he took, he went up to the glass of water and more water. Anyway, he finished it up and his throat was burning, his tongue was burning, his stomach was burning, but he ate it all. And right after that, he looked at Levi and said, do you mind if I call you Dad? And Levi told him, you can call me anything you want, but don't call me late for dinner. After that, he called him Daddy Cool. And he looked at me and he said, do you mind if I call you Mom? I thought, oh my gosh. And he did. He always called me Mom. Thank you.
Good morning. I have way too many good thoughts and everything about John. I mean, we hung out together. I lived with him in Leslie for quite some time. But I just wanted to read, since we're all doing poems, I wanted to read this one. It's by an unknown author. Here it goes. Now that I am gone, remember me with smiles and laughter. And if you need to cry, cry with my brother, who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. There are so many who need so much. I want to leave you with something much better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known, or helped in some special way. Let me live in your heart as well as in your mind. You can love me most by letting your love reach out to our loved ones by embracing them and living in them and in their love. Love does not die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away as best as you can. Thank you.
John lived a real simple, humble life. He was proud of who he was. He was there to help you in however way he could. He had his moments, like with anger, like everybody else does and stuff, but he was funny. He was really witty, and he had a remarkable vocabulary, which I really admired him for. So I remember when we first met John and stuff, and we were all sitting at the dinner table and stuff, and I can't all remember who was there and stuff, but somebody asked John to say grace. So he said, Lord, full of grace, 2 potatoes had a race. Now let's put the food in our face. That was John.
That's it.
I'm a strong believer, keep it simple. There's nothing more worrisome than to sit at a dinner table hungry and somebody say a 30-minute prayer. I would like John. Anybody else have something you want to share? And by the way, Mom, he adored you. There was a visit that I went over to sit down with him and talk, and he didn't mention you, the impact that you had on his life. And he respected you to the point that as the moments of anger, and I saw a few of those, he would look up and he'd look over across the table and he would see Mom and he would kind of take a breath and say, okay, I got to recollect myself. So you had a great impact on him. Anybody else have something you want to share with us?
I knew John through my partner Bill. And early on I realized what he had done in Vietnam. And I was in awe because of his bravery. But then he found out I was a helicopter crew. And he knew from his experiences that helicopters are not the safest thing in the world. They kill a lot of their crews. And so we had a mutual respect for each other, although I think he was far and away braver than anything I did.
Anyone else have something you want to share with us? Anything else? If not, then at this time we're going to listen to a song. And I think this song says everything. Listen to this, Amazing Grace. Such a rich song. Value the meaning, the purpose of it. Definitely brings encouragement. You know, there's a writing that says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. We look at that, sometimes we wonder, sometimes we question. But in my 49 years of ministry, I've done a lot of research, a lot of study, and one day I want to find out what's a good thing. Because personally, if I called my wife a thing, she might hit me. So I wanted to understand that a little bit. And I found something very unique, very special, because that phrase, a good thing, means a happy, cheerful, sacred gift from God. Wow. When a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. At this point, I would like you to stand and show honor to the sacred gift that God gave John as Leslie comes to read her poem. Would you stand and help me honor his wife this morning?
I wouldn't expect.
Thank you.
Hello. I'd like to thank all of you for coming here. And this was one poem he asked me to read for him. To me, he says, I remember you. I remember you, what I've forgotten, all the rest. You to me were true. You to me were the best. When there is no more, you can call it a chore. Quicker than anyone I know. When I'm all alone in the great unknown, I'll remember you. I'll remember you at the end of the trail. I had so much to do, I had little time to fail. There's some people that you don't forget, even though you've only seen them one time or two. When the roses fade and I'm in the shade, I'll remember you. Didn't I try to love you? Didn't I try to care? Didn't I sleep? Didn't I weep beside you with the wind and rain blowing in your hair? I'll remember you when the wind blows through El Cañon Wood. It was you who came right through. It was you who understood. Though I never say that I didn't it that way. That you have liked me too. In the end, my dear sweet friend, I'll remember you. He was a very great friend. He was always there, making me laugh, because he cared. He spoiled me rotten. And I see it every day, and I love him always. He told me he was a POW in Vietnam. Nobody knew that. When he had his 3 Purple Hearts, they had him out there recovering, and he said, yes, I got lost in Vietnam. I didn't know I was a POW. They just said, you're sick. You need to stay here. And we're gonna let's help you recover with these 3 Purple Hearts. POW. What was a POW? It was called a prisoner of war. And MIA was missing in action. It was somewhere in Vietnam, but he recovered and he managed to come home. He came home, he was true. Even when he came home, he would put up them flags all the time. He had 4 of them that he put up. There's the Purple Heart, there's POW, the United States, and then there was the military honors. There was like 5 of them. I misplaced that one flag, but I know I have it somewhere. But it's there outside, and I appreciated everything he did, especially when he made me laugh. Because boy, when I was sick with cancer, he always made me laugh. If you felt bad, he wouldn't let you feel bad. It's like if you were sad, he said, don't be sad for me. Make it laugh, make it simple. He said, kiss. I go, kiss what? He said, keep it simple, sister. Don't be sad. Goes, laugh about it, no matter what. And continue on. And let's continue and not be sick. Because we can't let this be that way. So he did. He'd make a joke out of it and we'd go on.
Yes.
And that's what made me get better. Because had he not done that, I think I would have still been sick with cancer. Because I had been, I'm a cancer survivor myself. And I thank him and I appreciate him. And I love him with all my heart for doing that. For making me laugh whenever. Had he not done that, I wouldn't have been able to get better myself and help him out as best as I could. Because the one thing he made me promise was not to put him in a home. And I told him, I won't put you in a home. I'll keep you here with me till we're both safe and free.
Yes.
And I did. I kept him till he died. And I'll always love him with all my heart. Thank you once again for coming. And there will be food afterwards at my house. You know my address. And I'll see you guys later. Talk to you later. Bye.
This time we're going to have life story by Eunice.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming to join us today in the celebration of John's life. This is really hard for me. But approximately about 1.5 years ago, John called me and he said he was not feeling well. He said that he was having issues with his mouth and he had gone to see the doctor, but the nurses just kept telling him it was a cold. This went on for a couple of months. Finally went to see another doctor, and by this time, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of the mouth and the throat. And he was told that there were not any qualified surgeons in the Pueblo area for the type of surgery that he was going to need to remove the cancer. His options were to go to Colorado Springs or the VA in Denver. He opted to go to Colorado Springs because he wanted to remain as close to his home as possible. It was then that he came to me and asked me if I would be willing
to drive him and Leslie to Colorado Springs. As they were not familiar with the city, I readily agreed, and so began the journeys, him seeing specialists and surgeons to help him, hopefully to have a chance for a longer life. He did this surgery to remove the cancer in early spring of 2021, and then he was sent to a rehab facility all in the Springs area. So it was all the bi-weekly and weekly trips to Colorado Springs, which went well into most of the summer. With all of this going on, John started to open up to me about a lot of his personal wishes. We all thought that the cancer had been removed and that he was slowly on his way to recovery. Boy, were we in for a great shock when his surgeon's office called him not to keep his appointment, which was scheduled for late February of this year. He was told that the cancer was spreading rapidly and would eventually go to the heart and brain. His first call was to Naomi. When Leslie and I got home from grocery shopping, he asked that we sit, as he wanted to talk to us. It was then that he told us what his doctor had just told him. At this time, he was diagnosed pretty much with 6 months to live, possibly 6 or 12 if he did chemo. As he first opted to stay home and then decided to do the chemo, which he did one initial visit. He was sick for 1.5 weeks, and he told me, "Auntie, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to die at home." And it was then that John sat with Leslie and I and asked me if I would step in and help Leslie with everything. He was afraid that he would not be coherent enough to make medical, financial, and day-to-day decisions, as well as Leslie due to all the additional stress that they would both be going through. His reasoning being that Leslie would feel most comfortable with me helping her since Naomi would not always be in Pueblo to help her out. I agreed to help out, with the exception that Leslie, then Naomi, and then I would be the decision makers in everything. John then started planning out the last days of his life. His focus always being on making sure that Leslie always came first. He started making arrangements regarding his funeral, his finances, day-to-day living, etc. Always telling me, "Auntie, you need to remember this, and remember this, and remember this." Thus began a lot of note-taking so that I would know what to do after he was gone. For those who didn't know John well, he was always pretty much a loner. He was not comfortable being around crowds. Even when I would invite him and Leslie for dinner at my house, one of his first questions was, "Auntie, who's going to be there?" John went even as far as making sure that one of his prior promises to Leslie regarding the wood floor was completed before his passing. That was just a few days before he passed away. I don't even think he really got to enjoy that floor, which is beautiful. His wishes for a funeral were a celebration of life ceremony, his reasoning being that we are a family with different denominations. He did not want to offend anyone. He said, absolutely no viewing, and absolutely no mass and no preaching. He asked that when he was on his deathbed, he did not want a lot of people around coming to see him. It wasn't because he didn't care and love the family and friends. It was just that he always felt very uneasy being around a lot of people. So I tried to honor his last wishes. And if I offended anyone, I asked for forgiveness. Leslie and Naomi decided to allow those family members who dropped by to see him to stay for a while and pay their last respects. knowing that they came because they truly cared about John and Leslie and Naomi. John went as far as telling me to write down what he wanted to read at his funeral. Later he changed his mind and wrote a poem to Leslie. He made me promise not to read the story of his life. However, this is what I promised John I cannot keep, only because I want people to know the real John. His first and last requests to Naomi and I were, promise me you will never leave Leslie alone. Promise me you will always help her when she has a seizure. Promise me you will help her if she gets confused, etc. Treat her gently. The following is his life story. Again, John, if you could hear me. I'm so sorry to break this promise to you. However, I only want everyone here to know the real you, the John that I came to know and love and respect even more for everything that he went through and overcame. When I first met John, I was not very impressed with him. It was in Denver. I had helped Naomi and Leslie deliver the newspaper, and afterwards we went out for breakfast. John was there, and every other word out of his mouth was a cuss word. We were brought up that way, and I finally told him I did not appreciate all the cussing. He apologized and tried not to cuss after that. Later, when John came into our family, I got to know him a little bit better, and it was during one of our conversations that he told me that he grew up as an orphan. Little did I know back then how young he really was when he went into the orphanage. And his life story follows. This is what he told me. I, John Flores, born on September 28, 1948, was dropped off in a shoebox with holes in it on December 5th, 1948 by my mother, Stella Flores, at St. Vincent's home in Denver. This was a home for the boys. John was only 2 months old when he was dropped off at the orphanage. I myself can't even begin to imagine not knowing the love of my mom or the arms that held me as a baby. Yet, he was only 2 months old again when he was given away by his mom. His story continues. The orphanage was located in North Denver at 419 Lowell Boulevard. At the time of my arrival, there were 320 children, all from different backgrounds. I would equate that with growing up in the United Nations. There were Cubans, Native Americans, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, etc. I believe that's why I never had a racial bone in my body, because I didn't know at that time the difference. There were 53 nuns from Catholic Charities. There were 22 Regis and high school students. 10 miles away was the Queen of Heaven's orphanage for girls. They had 243 students. I did very well in school. In 1962, I moved to J.K. Mullen High School, and was there only 2 years. Details about my departure are left unsaid, and that's when the beatings began. When I could no longer be tolerated at the school, I was put in a mental institution for 2 years. My brother Benny got me adopted with the same family who adopted him, which were John and Dolores and a writer. Benny and I were the best of friends at the orphanage. Little did we know at the time that we were also half brothers. We both had the same mother, but not the same father. Being at that particular high school changed me, but I will not go into the details about why I changed so much, except to say that I became enraged by the social pecking where bigger kids would pick on the smaller kids. That type of behavior damaged me psychologically, and I retaliated so much that I was sent to a mental institution for 2 years. By the age of 17, Benny and I both decided to join the U.S. Army. Benny was rejected due to a medical condition. In August of 1967, I was sent to Vietnam from Schofield Barracks in Oahu, Hawaii, and landed in Quinam, Vietnam. Lots of the soldiers were scared. We went by ship at that time, and I only weighed 92 pounds and was 5 feet 5 inches tall. I believe that is why the military elected me to be a tunnel rat. For me, war was nothing but casualties and death. You lose your innocence, your ethics, and your morals. The last hall I was in Mekong Delta, and when I got out, I was with a transportation company in a completely different environment. Because my mental ability had changed so much, I received an early discharge from the government on December 6, 1968. My brother Benny picked me up at Stapleton Airport in Denver. When I was getting off the plane, a group of people were there protesting the war in Vietnam. As we soldiers were descending the stairs to the ground, these people started throwing balloons full of human urine and paper bags filled with human and animal feces and calling us baby killers. I took my medals and literally tore them off my uniform and threw them on the ground. Benny picked up my medals. I was so angry that I left Denver and moved to Grant, Colorado. I resided in an abandoned cabin for 5 years. People in that area fed me and took care of me. Along with all the food, there was also a lot of beer and marijuana. I finally decided to leave Grant and hitchhiked back to Denver and went to Brooks Towers. When I arrived there, I was once again disillusioned by people I loved and trusted. So I went out to being on the streets for the next 23 years. I continue to imagine that. Then I went to work on my own for a company called Standby Ready Labor. There I saved up enough money to get a job at Colorado Garden Supply, where I met the love of my life, Leslie, in 1987. I called her my crown jewel. We were married on August 5th, 1994. I had made up my mind then that I wanted to take care of her, as the people at work never took Leslie's medical condition seriously, so I felt that I would. If I am to be measured by any quality or virtue, it is a credit to the family that I married into, as I have managed to get this far, especially credit to Leslie, Naomi, and Levi. I am not disappointed in the least by coming into this family. During one of our vacations, Naomi and Levi took me to see Sister Mary Rita in Kansas. It was divine intervention that I once again found this lady, which I am especially fond of, as she helped me after I was in a very serious auto accident where I went through the windshield and lost the ability to function and basically had to be re-educated. He said he had to learn how to read and write again. She was being the nun who also took care of him as a youngster in the orphanage. John's last words were, "I never tell people that I love them because I don't know how." John did not want to elaborate on all the horrific details of his life while in the orphanage, mental institution, the streets, Vietnam, and other things that he went through while growing up. Events that he started to tell me about. But the memory of them, too horrific for him to recall to his mind. I know, because I saw the pain on his face and the tears that welled up in his eyes as he shook his head and said, "I don't want to talk about this." I know John was very intelligent. He and Leslie fought for 10 years with the VA to get his disability through the military. He once told me he did this on his own, as the one attorney which he fired was trying to put words into John's mouth, so to speak, as he would not listen to what John was telling him. So John proceeded on his own to get 100% disability. 10 years is a long time to wait patiently while the government makes a decision. Yet this is what he chose to do. John also had the most beautiful handwriting I have ever seen in a male person. He also loved to write poetry, and if I say so myself, he was quite good at it. He loved shopping for antiques. Hearing John's story can only make us realize once again as to how blessed we were to grow up with loving parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, etc. One can only wonder what I would have done had I grown up as John did. No wonder he always felt so alone and preferred to stay away from crowds. How can one learn to trust and love when all you have known your whole life is hate, fear, and beatings for things you did not even do or have any control over? Many people may say, suck it up, get over it, it was in the past. Yes, it's easy to say unless it has happened to you. I guess you can either let life break you or you fight back and go on and do your best with what you've been dealt. John did his best to overcome to the very end. I earlier mentioned about John's language when I first met him. Well, over the years, when he was around us, Naomi and I always called him on this. He would apologize and try to do better. What I also found very encouraging was that he would call me and say, Auntie, my mom hung up on me again. And he always let out a small laugh. However, he slowly changed for the better over the years. And he would always say, thank you, Auntie. It's because of you and Mom that I finally gave up that language. But of course, and rightly so, the biggest credit goes to Naomi. During the past few months, as John's health declined, he at times gained enough strength to sneak upstairs to his bedroom and also downstairs to the bathroom. He did it in a blink of an eye when we least expected. Ask Judy and Leslie. We'd go to check on him and he was gone. My last words to him right after he passed away in hospice, I told him, don't you dare sneak away now. Judy and I both laughed. John mentioned he didn't know how to say I love you, yet he showed it in a million other ways. The way he always took care of Leslie and his kindness to me, always thanking me whenever I was helping them, and always stopping by my work. He and Leslie would take me out to lunch. I would try to pay at times, and he always said, it's my treat. He showed it in the way he treated Naomi and Levi, how he stopped cussing. He showed it in the way he always helped those less fortunate than him. He showed it in the way he always spoke of Sister Rita and her care of him, and his many calls to her over the last few years after he found her again. Some people say, I love you, very casually, then treat that person badly. I say John said, I love you in all the ways that count. John mentioned divine intervention. I truly believe that that Jehovah God and his son Jesus were looking at his unspoken prayer for a good family. They answered this prayer when he met and married Leslie. and when you finally got a great set of parents. And Levi and Naomi. And I personally want to thank everyone who came out today to join us, and those who over the years have stepped in to help John and Leslie. I want to thank Judy, who not only helped them in their home, but was with them helping Leslie and John when Naomi and I could not be there, and also for being with Leslie and myself and I and Naomi at the hospice house. And there are many of those whose help has not gone unnoticed. And it goes without saying, mostly, my sister Naomi. A mother's love and help is one of the biggest blessings we will ever have. The Bible in 1 Samuel 16:17 says, "For the way man sees is not the way God sees, because mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah God sees what's in the heart." Thank you, everybody.
Quite a life. The family has requested that I read this, and I understand why now. David was one of the most popular writers of the gospel. His message was inspiring, alarming, and inspirational beyond measure. He wrote this. He said, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." John, while you look down from the portals upon us today, David said, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." His life, his experiences, his journey was amazing. But as I read through this, sitting in my office at my home, I thought of John. John saw the table that God had prepared for him. "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." If there were three things that John would want to share with you as family, friends, I believe it would be these three things. I have fought a good fight. I have kept the faith. And I have finished my course. He did. He fought a great fight. He shared with me time and time again, he said, Chaplain, I was picked on. I was bullied. But he said, in spite of everything, I overcame. I fought a good fight. I kept the faith. And I finished my course. On that day that life left his body, the most powerful phrase that mankind has ever heard was spoke into John's life. As the master of the wind, the creator of the universe declared to John, peace, be still. We'll have a video at this time.
We'll be escorting the family out in just a moment. We ask that everybody follows right on out, and we'll turn our services over to the ritual team. Before we depart this morning, we do want to take a moment just to thank each and every one of you for being here today, to join the family, to honor and celebrate the cards. Your prayers truly mean so much to them. And all those who made this service special today, thank you so very much. Out of the gratitude following our military honors, as Leslie's mentioned, there'll be a gathering at her home, which is